Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. All right. So we're a bit of a mess, as you can see. Um, I had planned on, pre recording today's video and everything like I usually do. But honestly, even though I'm super, super damn duper excited for the launch tomorrow, I'm also not gonna lie, I'm a little bit worn down. Like it's been a long week. And you know, having content out and doing all of the marketing and trying to stay in touch with people and replying to emails and making sure that the books are where they need to be, and then also uh trying to plot the next book and all of the things that I'm doing there, feeling a little bit wore out. So as you can tell, I mean, it's lucky that I got in the shower today, because otherwise you guys would have been in for a treat. But yeah, so that stuff aside, the Founding Library does launch tomorrow. It's the second book in the Founding trilogy in the Eververse Chronicles, and I'm like, I'm so excited and also relieved. And if you guys are thinking that, man, this light is bright. If you guys are thinking that publishing a book and then like getting it out into the world is nothing but like pure joy, it's not true. I mean, it is. It makes you happy, but also you can get super overwhelmed because it's not just the writing of the book. If it was just the writing of the book, man, we could do that all day, 7 days a week, all year long, forever. But it's also the getting it out there, and that part can be pretty stressful, especially if it's not something that you're, man, my eyes are just, especially if it's not something that's, your bag. So, but that aside, it's still good. It's still worth it. It's still good. I'm still happy that it's happening. I'm super happy that it's happening. Oh, my brain and my body just need a break. So, moving on from that. A pantser trying to plot. That is kind of the subject of today's conversation, because I think pantsing was just something that came naturally to me. And when I was in school and teachers would try to make me plot out, they'd make you do the brainstorm paper, and then they would make you do the first draft and then the revision and then the second draft and all of this kind of stuff. Oh, it made me crazy. Like, I absolutely hated it. And I think it was because, for the most part, I was able to write and turn in a passable paper on my first draft. So having to go through everything in between made me nuts. But of course, like, an essay is not the same thing as a 130,000 word book. So what comes naturally to me may not necessarily be the absolute best way. And since the first two books were pantsed for the most part, including a lot of trouble for me, I decided that I really needed to give plotting a go for this final book, because they're so big and there's so many connections, and the plot is just so deep and wide, and there are so many different strings that need to be tied off for this tapestry to be finished. I thought this time I would plot, and since I don't have a lot of experience with that, I figured I would look up some different methods and try them, and one of the ones that I found was the plot embryo. And so I thought that seems like a really good kind of simple way to just have the main ideas, lay them out broadly, which is, kind of a natural thing for me to do anyway. And that would work for me, that would be awesome. But it turns out it's actually harder than I thought. So if you look at both of these, like, there's barely anything on them. Like, I had two different things. I barely got anything on them. And I think part of that for me is that the plot embryos are pretty theme heavy. And at least for me with these books, I find that while I'm writing them, the theme tends to emerge rather than me writing them for a specific theme. And in some ways, I'm afraid that if I was writing for a theme, I might push too hard in that direction, or I might be too preachy, or something like that, if that makes sense. And so for the first two books, there are 100% themes in there, but they come about as a consequence of the things that are happening. And I think that that's pretty natural to our lives. I mean, we don't live our lives according to a theme, and we don't make decisions according to some grand, theme. We tend to look back and find those themes in our lives, like times when we've gone through hardship and we realized that what came from that hardship was a better understanding of ourself, or some virtue that we were needing to cultivate at the time, and we look back and we go, oh, my life never would have gone in this direction if I hadn't experienced these things. And so, you know even though I love the fact that I really, really like the idea of the plot embryo, and I'm going to try it with the first book that I write after the founding trilogy is finished, but I just wasn't able to make it work for some reason. So what I ended up doing instead is basically just a visual version of what I actually do when I am thinking about the book before I get really busy writing it. And that is, I basically just wrote out chapter outlines, which I know is another pretty common way for people to plot out books. And one of the great things about it is that once you see everything chapter by chapter, it's kind of easy to realize where something is missing, or if your characters are moving in a direction that doesn't quite make sense, like things need to have a proper flow. So I basically just wrote out simple chapter outlines that would cover the main beats of the story and make sure that everything was going in the direction it needed to go. And so far, that seems to have been pretty successful. I feel like for the most part, I have a good idea of how everything needs to be laid out. And I do have a similar number of chapters. For some reason, I seem to end up around getting close to 40, somewhere around in there. And they're fairly long chapters too. So I need an editor in my life, clearly. But yeah, so that seems to have been the most successful thing for me so far, because it allows me to think in story form. I think it allows me to think in, you know, as I'm conceptualizing how it goes, I can start at the beginning and go to the end. And it's not that you can't with these plot embryos or story circles or whatever you want to call them. But with these ones, it should be simpler. It should be simpler because it's larger beats. There are only 8 sections. And so it seems like it should be simpler because you are only painting the broadest outlines, rather than going 37 chapters worth of, summary. But for some reason, it just didn't work as well for me. So I'm going to explore it a little bit more and see if I can figure out why and find a way to make this work better for me. But for right now, I'm actually pretty pleased with the fact that, not really having very much experience plotting, I was able to give myself pretty decent outline of the next book, and I feel like all of the plot threads are tied in pretty well. I can tell that there are going to be some things that are going to come up as a result of the story where I'm going to have to make sure that I'm putting attention in those spots. Some of the things that Allie has learned through the first 2 books that she's going to have to actually put into practice in the 3rd book. And then something she hasn't realized she's learned that she's going to have to realize in order for the book to finish the way that it needs to finish. And that part I feel pretty dang comfortable with. So I'm actually super excited about the fact that all of that is going the way that I was hoping it was going to go. And yeah, so that's got me in a good mental space. Now, the funny thing is, even though now I have a really good idea of what the book is going to look like, I haven't been able to force myself to even start the first chapter yet. And this is like a common theme in my life where I know I'm about to do something and I'm always hesitant to take that first step, because once I take that step, I know that I'm committed and I'm not going to be able to stop. And that means that all of the other things that compete with whatever I'm working on are going to kind of get pared away. So right now I'm doing some digital paintings of characters from Lauren Severe's book, Songs of Autumn, which is super awesome. And so I'm working on those characters, and I have the first digital painting mostly complete. I'm going to play with a little bit more. I have the second character probably halfway worked through. And so I'm like super into that process right now, and it feels really good to be making art. And I want to start the book. God, I really want to start the book, but every time I sit down, I'm like, my fingers hesitate over the keyboard, and I just haven't been able to force myself to do it yet. So I think I either listen to myself and go, you're not ready to take the leap, and I give myself a little bit of time before I really get hard into drafting the first draft, or I just kick myself in the ass and I start writing the damn thing because I have set myself the goal of publishing it in fall of next year. So if I can do that, then, I will have finished the trilogy in about just a little over 3 years, about 3.5 years. And then I can start on the book that I already have planned for after that, which is more pure speculative fiction than fantasy per se, although there will be fantasy elements in it. But I'm really, really excited to write it. In a lot of ways, it's an homage to writers and to stories and to what they mean to us as human beings. So I'm really excited to get into that, but it's never going to happen if I don't finish the trilogy. And yeah, so that's going to have to get done. But I've already got a good start. Like I said, my plotting is there. If you guys watching, if any of you are plotters, give me your tips and advice, your best tips and advice, because I don't got much. I don't got much to work off of, just whatever research I've done, and then trying to do what works. So give me that stuff. And yeah, so this is the last video during launch week before the actual launch. Tomorrow is the actual launch. I think I'm going to get myself like a party hat and some confetti, maybe one of the little shooter confetti things. Oh, that looked really bad. Maybe one of the little, New Year's Eve things that you shoot off and shoots confetti into the air. Like a kazoo. A kazoo could be awesome. Maybe I could play like the theme song on a kazoo or something. Would you dig it? You would dig it. So yeah, I'm going to go get some of that stuff, and then make sure that I have everything planned out for tomorrow, because I'm super duper excited. I hope that some of you guys are able to be there, because like I want to be able to chat with you guys about the fact that the book is finally out and live. So this is the last day that you have to pre-order the book if that's something that you wanted to do. If you decide to do it, give me like a message, email me a copy of your receipt, and then I will send you the first 5 chapters so that you can get them read while you wait for your book to get there. And also, if you're inside the continental United States, I would love to send you some goodies too. Digital art, bookmarks, keychains. I have all of these goodies. I even have a couple totes back there to send. Ooh, those are super cool. Yeah, so just take a screenshot of your receipt and then add in your shipping address, and then email that to me at NicoleMcEwenAuthor@gmail.com, and I will send you guys goodies. I want to send you gifts because I like you guys, and I just want you to read my book. So that's it for today, guys. It's going to be a little bit shorter. I mean, it's kind of long still, but a little bit shorter than yesterday, which was like epically long. And then tomorrow, hopefully we're going for a couple hours and we're going to have fun and it's going to be awesome. So, yep. Come hang out with me tomorrow. Come hang out with me tomorrow, guys. Okay? Do it. And, yay! Book launch! Bye!